What is up, everybody? Mr. Purtis here. Welcome to Topic 1.4 and 1.5. You're getting two for the price of one today. How exciting is that? We're doing developments in the Americas and Africa. We've gone through 3 different locations so far in this kind of big unit or topic. We're going to go into 2 for 1 here, the Americas and Africa. There's a little bit less that you need to know from the College Board's curriculum for AP World History on these 2, so we're just going to shorten this into one nice little neat video. So here's what we got. We're going to start in the Americas. There's a lot of different empires going on pre-European arrival in the Americas. A lot of them, I call them empires because they have one centralized government, but we also have a lot of city-states and a lot of just kind of like small little civilizations. We can really focus on any of those for this, but I want to focus in on the Inca. I think, to me, they're the most interesting. So we're going to kind of go down. If you don't know where the Inca Empire is, it's in South America. If you don't know where South America is, I don't have a map for you here. Get one yourself. Open up a new tab. Google it, where South America is. The Inca Empire was located right on what is the west coast of South America, modern-day Ecuador, Peru, Chile. These 3 areas is where you're going to see the Inca Empire and the expansiveness of the Inca Empire. What I just want to talk about is the government of the Inca Empire. Like a lot of these other civilizations around this same time, from the circa 1200 to 1450, we're looking at, they're really a centralized government. The emperor in this case was godlike. He received his power from the gods, which should be a little similar to some of the other videos. Similarities, always good to write that down. And he's also an absolute ruler. What he said went. Kind of one thing that we really gloss over here, but food is everything back in this time period. We really take for granted in modern, especially the United States, how easy it is to have access to food and just to go to the grocery store and buy anything. You go back 600 years ago, you were so reliant on a weather pattern that you necessarily didn't even understand. And one of the cool things about the Inca Empire is they recognized this importance of food and keeping people happy by having them well fed, and that there was always a risk for famine, and they believed that the gods controlled the weather patterns, and therefore in order to prep in case the gods get angry, they did create warehouses locally throughout their empire in which you stored food. And this is like such a simple thing to think about, but the storing of food and having an extra abundance of food allows you to avoid those kind of rebellions or those major issues in your empire when a famine occurs. It at least kind of backs it up. Most civilizations recognize this. It's kind of a basic thing, but nothing that we've talked about yet. So I just want to point that out. Also, you're centralized, meaning that there is one emperor ruling, but really you're gonna break down power. You're not gonna have one person. This is an extensive piece of land here, and a lot of these empires this time are extensive. So you can't have one person overseeing this in the 1400s. This is a mountainous region. It's hard to travel around. So they actually break it up into 4 different sections, and you can see by the fancy colors here. And each of those sections had their own governor. They had their own bureaucracy, and they ruled under the direction of the emperor, but they really had some autonomy or independence just as long as they were following the laws of the land. So that's kind of, each one has its own separate, almost identity as it as the Inca Empire expands. Also, as you expand, you got to remember you're conquering people. Not all of those people want to be part of your empire. If the United States got invaded tomorrow by another country, you probably wouldn't be too happy. And these people are no different. They don't necessarily want to be conquered. So when you conquer people, you actually have to figure out how to treat them. We talked about this with other empires, and we will continue to talk about this. It's one of those major issues. How do you treat conquered people? And in this case, the Inca Empire sets up what is called the Mita system, M-I-T'-A. Everyone who is in these conquered areas has to mandatorily serve publicly. What that means is you have to help build roads and other services that are necessary to maintain the empire. So you go into a conquered area, you say to the people essentially, and this is not the exact way it worked, but for a month out of the year, you need to work for the government. You need to stop what you're doing with your farming or whatever else industry or trade you're in, and you need to essentially work for the government, helping provide services for our entire empire. It's not build this castle for me. It's like, let's build roads, let's build buildings, let's build the storage facilities for the food, and that's what we're going to do. Also, in order to try and blend or try and convert these people almost to Incan culture, they're going to force the conquered people to learn Incan language, culture, history, religion, in hopes that it'll kind of, instead of like a forced belief in conversion, that eventually these people will become Incan in a sense. really they're going to be very unpopular. People just don't want to be conquered. And what we're going to see is when the Spanish come in, they're going to pit these different groups against each other and hope that the groups that the Inca have conquered will eventually turn against them and fight on behalf of the Spanish against the Inca. Don't want to give it away, but it kind of works. So we're going to switch gears here. So that's the America side of things. This is, I'm going to really focus on Africa. If you don't know, this is Africa. I don't know, just in case you don't know. This is Africa. If you don't know the different regions, this would be considered North Africa. This over here is West Africa. We have East Africa over here, South Africa here, and oftentimes this area right here is called Sub-Saharan Africa. This is the Saharan Desert. This is referred to as Sub-Saharan. We're going to focus in here in West Africa. Again, similar to the Americas, we could really pick anywhere around here to focus in on. I'm going to focus in this region here. You probably learned about this last year. A quick little review if you did. In this region is an area called the Mali Empire, and I'm going to switch back for 1 second. This is the Mali Empire right in this area here. It goes from the Atlantic Ocean over in here to the capital of Timbuktu. Again, this is the Sahara Desert here, so it's right on the cusp of the Sahara Desert. These individuals, this area known as Mali, really rose to power in West Africa from the gold salt trade. We're going to refer to it in here as the Sub-Saharan trade route, but you probably learned about it last year as the gold salt trade. You got gold coming from here, and up here you have an abundance of salt. If you didn't ask this last year and no one ever explained this to you, salt is the key to life until electricity and refrigerators are created. You cannot preserve food without salt. You salt the food, and by salting it, fish, meat, whatever it is, it makes it so it doesn't go bad as fast. This is not much different than food today. If you go into your pantry or cabinet or whatever and you look on the back, any packaged food that you have, whether it's the box of macaroni and cheese or the Doritos, is really high in sodium. That salt helps preserve the food. Fun fact, by the way. Coming back to this, the king in that region, who was an absolute ruler, seeing a theme here, most of these places are absolute rulers. Something to write down, star, because when we have to write a comparison essay on this, you'll know that that is one of the answers. The king is referred to, in this case, as Mansa. So if you know, one of the most famous kings in the Mali Empire was Mansa Musa. Mansa just means king. It was often believed that he had mystical powers. He was the only one who was allowed to hold on to gold nuggets. So like if you find gold nuggets, it goes right to the king. The king Mansa realized very quickly that gold is valuable, and other places really desired this gold, so he keeps the gold for himself. There's some like interesting things. If you, the king was only allowed to eat by himself. You couldn't eat with the king. Also, if you approached the king, if you were going to talk to the king, you had to walk barefoot up to him. You couldn't have shoes on, and then you had to dump ashes all over yourself and then kneel before him. So just kind of one of those interesting, showing that you are subservient or beneath the king. A lot of different cultures have this as a way to recognize the leader. Also, conquered people, similar to other places, had to pay tribute. So this is the Mali Empire, but like these areas on the outskirts, there's really governors or local people in charge who the Mansa or king of the Mali Empire allowed to stay in power but had to pay tribute. So every year, what tribute means is every year you have to give me something. And if you give it to me, I let you stay in power. Generally, it's money. It could also be foodstuffs. It could be military service, whatever it is, you give that to me, you can stay in power. And a lot of people don't want to be conquered and lose their power, so they continue to pay tribute. Also, like I said, one of the most famous rulers during this time was Mansa Musa, who we'll talk about more in class. He's going to take a pilgrimage, and if you don't know what that is, he's going to leave the Mali Empire here. He's going to travel all the way across the Sahara Desert, and he's going to go down here to Mecca. It's a long freaking way to go. He did it. He brought a bunch of slaves with them. He brought a bunch of gold with them. Anyone who is Muslim, one of the 5 pillars of Islam is to take this pilgrimage to Mecca. It's called the Hajj, which we did in the Islamic video, which is H-A-J-J. If you are physically and financially able, you're supposed to go. He was obviously financially able, one of the richest guys in the world, and he was physically able. So he went on this pilgrimage. When he returns back, he really sets up this area right here called Timbuktu as really the capital and center of his empire. He builds mosques, and he builds probably one of the largest libraries in the world at the time, where he brings a lot of these ideas back from what was now the fallen Islamic Empire back into Timbuktu. And really kind of one of the more famous people at the time. So he is, that's Mansa Musa, that's Mali, a little Government there, government there. That's all I got. As always, if you have questions, write it down. Let me know. Happy to help. Enjoy. I'm out.